Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Monday. My name is Paul Harrell. I'm alongside my co-host, Rob Spencer. We got a great show for you. We had this news over the weekend. We've got a bunch of news to cover, but the biggest thing to me is that the Somali fraud continues to get worse. We've got these reports that Nick Shirley's got another video coming out going to show it's going to get worse. We've got federal authorities now saying that, hey, look, they've been smuggling money through airports. So it's been working like this system. I actually just think it's basically like foreign aid fraud with extra steps. Tim Waltz sets up all of this fraud. He gives these phony daycare. He gives these Somalis the money to start up phony daycares that don't exist. Then it's up to the Somalis to try to smuggle the cash out of the country. Some reports saying it, goes to Europe. And by the way, once it gets to Europe, all bets are off for NGOs and every other deep state criminal enterprise. Obviously, some of this is going to wind up back in the government of Somalia or back in the country of Somalia, for family members. But this is a huge boondoggle. This has been going on for years, and now we have it confirmed. And then you start to look at all of the other NGOs across the leftist blue states, billions and billions of dollars a year. In California, obviously that number dwarfs the amount of money going to these organizations or states like Minnesota. Anyway, we're going to talk about all of that. Also, Jerome Powell being given subpoenas to a grand jury. We're going to talk about that as well. Much, much more. Happy Monday. The show starts right now.
Paul Harrell Program.
And here we are. I'm alongside my co-host, Rob Spencer. Rob, good to have you again, sir, as always.
Paul, it's an honor to be on the show, as always. We saw this stuff, as you mentioned, unfold over the weekend, and it's pretty incredible. I was telling my wife, actually, that I think that we're going to see Somalian fraud in just nationwide, not just in the state of Minnesota. We're going to see it, and I think it's going to eclipse the $50 billion, maybe even $100 billion mark, depending on how far they go back and how deep they dive on all of this. It's incredible, and the people who are coming out and defending, this fraud because they want it to continue, and I've got so many thoughts on it as we go over all of these the topics of the day.
I mean, what we're finding out, literally pays to be a Democrat. I mean, you vote Democrat.
Yeah.
You're getting money. I mean, that's, it's not a blanket statement, but it is for certainly all of these, the marginalized groups of America that we're all supposed to have sympathy for.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely nuts. But let's get to it. We have a couple of reports here. This one is from Real America's Voice reporting on what Just the News said, and it sounds like this.
Back to the Somali fraud investigation, as we've discussed before. Authorities have discovered suitcases containing hundreds of millions of dollars in a Minnesota airport. Now, in the meantime, Republicans are working to cut funding for Somali-led organizations with alleged ties to the massive fraud scandal. Now, as the FBI pushes forward with its own investigation, one key question arises. What does accountability even look like in this case moving forward? So joining us now to talk about all of this and more is New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Great to be on with you, too. What a crazy time we're seeing here, aren't we?
Absolutely insanity. And I know oversight in the House is looking into these fraud allegations, but I wonder if it's even bigger than we have uncovered thus far. The $700 million in cash going out of the airports there. I have a feeling we are still just scratching the surface.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said, Rob.
Yeah.
Just scratching the surface. Real quick, then I want to get to this because here's John Solomon talking about his own report.
What are these cash transfers? There are Somali couriers who come to the airport almost daily with $1,600,000 in cash and a luggage.
Daily.
That sounds a little suspicious, right? It was going on daily, and they were moving about $350 million a year in cash in their luggage out of Minneapolis airport, and then traditionally or predominantly overseas. One of the routes that the TSA saw the money go, it would go from Minneapolis to Europe to Dubai, often through Amsterdam. It was flagged for years. TSA was flagging these payments for years. They grew. They grew from $30 million a year to $350 million a year the last 2 years, 2024 in 2025. It was literally a foreign ATM taking cash out of the United States to foreign destinations, and we don't know the reason why. But that is now under.
We don't know the reason why. Now, okay, think about that. What he just said is $600,000 to $1 million a day. This has been going on for years. I think the limit you can have is $10,000 if you're going through TSA. TSA's been flagging this for years. Nobody's done anything about it. Now, I want to park that for a second because we're going to come back to that in a minute. So then it goes, he says, most of the time it goes to Europe via Amsterdam and then goes to Dubai. Dubai, one of the the wealthiest Middle Eastern countries in America. So where does it go from there? And this is the thing. Like, it kind of dawned on me today that this just seems like foreign aid with extra steps. We can talk about what's going on in Ukraine. The money laundering that takes place there, all of the corruption that takes place there. We've talked about Venezuela last week. Is that the Ukraine of the Western Hemisphere? But there are so many different avenues to keep. And I'm just going to call it, the deep state, or people who are deep state adjacent or have, similar goals on a Venn diagram. Maybe, it overlaps here. It's just blatant corruption that, now back to the fact that the TSA flagged it, nothing's been done for years. It's been flagged, but nothing's been done. So our government is essentially, the Minnesota government or other governments, our federal government, the deep state, whatever. I mean, it is organized crime. I mean, that's the only way something like this gets flagged for years, and they're doing $700 million worth or whatever. The system is beyond, honestly, it's almost beyond reform.
I just have a logistics question here. First of all, how do you carry $1 million in cash? I don't know. What's the largest denomination of American currency?
I think it's just the hundreds. And they do that for a reason, so that if you do have to carry millions of dollars, there is a logistics problem. You've got
I just didn't know if there was because a lot of people have never heard of a $2 bill. But it exists. And I just didn't know if there was a
I know there's been talk about creating like a $500 note, but I think the reason they don't want that to happen is because, first of all, the World Economic Forum wants everybody to go cashless, and then it would make it obviously easier to now, or a $1,000 note would make it much easier to smuggle.
So you have $1 million going through TSA when the limit is $10,000. Why is this money not being seized?
Yeah, it gets flagged, but it's not being seized. Obviously, it got seized this time.
And it's being allowed to get out of the country. So I've got a logistics question there on how and why is that happening? Number two, I have a question. Why are they sending it through these public airports rather than, if you've got millions of dollars, why are they not hiring private jets here to take all of this money, and then you don't have to worry about losing any of it with TSA? So none of this stuff makes sense. Now, I believe John Solomon, if he's reporting on this, I completely believe that this is legit. I just wonder how logistically this is working out. But do I believe that it's happening with all of this fraud that we're seeing and being uncovered? $700 million seems like a drop in the bucket compared to what we're actually uncovering here.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I'll just add this, that I don't see how, if it gets flagged, but then nothing is done about it.
Right.
I don't see how that happens without the intel community being in on it, or you got to have somebody saying, "Hey, no, don't go after these guys." You've got to have somebody that says, "Hey, yeah, they got flagged, but we're not doing anything." And that only happens if somebody is pretty high up. I mean,
sure.
You would imagine maybe it's just as simple as paying off the head of the TSA at the airport, but I don't know. I would imagine there's checks and balances there to make sure that stuff like I just think this whole thing just reeks of deep state intel operations, and that money, who knows, once it gets to Amsterdam, does it go to an NGO, and then the NGO donates to 501c3, and then that 501c3 donates back to Tim Walt's campaign.
Yeah,
I mean, you could just put some extra steps in there.
That's 100% happening. There's just no way.
Yeah, that's the allegation. That's what's been going on in Ukraine. Yeah. That's also the allegation of what via the drug cartels is what's been going on in Venezuela. How do you reform this?
Think think at it through the lens of our national debt and deficit. Think about our spending deficit. Are we actually in the black if they can get rid of all this fraud? Elon Musk said that he conservatively believes there's $1.5 trillion worth of fraud every year through all of the systems. Now, he can't back up every dollar with that, but that's just basically him using statistics. If this organization that we investigated has this much fraud and this much fraud, like percentage wise, here we go, we're at 1.5 trillion. And it's just mind-boggling to me how much fraud. We all know that it exists. We all know that there are corrupt politicians getting $100 handshakes and all of that stuff. We understand that thing exists, Paul. But I don't think that anybody has ever really seen it on this large of a scale, where there's reporting now coming out of Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's taking the brunt of this right now, but I'm hearing the same thing is happening in Oregon, in Ohio, and all of these places that have this high Somali community. But Somalians, they don't have a monopoly on fraud, folks. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. If there is a financial incentive, the guy that's exposing this fraud, and we're going to go over this, we may even play that video. He said something very telling in it. He said, don't really get on the Somalians as much as the ones providing the money, because if you hand someone $100, what are they going to do? They're going to stick their hand back out again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's exactly what's going to happen. But right now, this is a key point that I want our listeners and viewers to take away from this. There's reporting coming out of Minnesota right now that there has been massive fraud within the government agencies that are overseeing this. And it may not be a direct financial incentive to them. It is incompetence and a lack of oversight on these Somalian communities for fear of racism, for fear of whatever it's going to be called, because the reporting that I was reading about today was that they have caught multiple agencies manufacturing documents, Paul. We alluded to this last week.
On their behalf?
Correct, yes. And backdating stuff like from 2 years ago. And we talked last week at how they hired an auditor to investigate these Somalian daycares, for example, an auditor to go through and look through all of these documents, and the auditor was at the back of a gas station, and he was also a Somalian immigrant. And you're just like, okay, folks, this is not about racism. Racism and the fear of being called a racist, and the refusal to have anyone be perceived as a racist in your state has allowed this fraud.
Yeah.
You're refusing, you're turning a blind eye so that you're not called a racist. And now that's not everybody's motivation. Some people are getting their pockets lined.
100%. Yeah, to your point, yeah, that is interesting that the religion, right? They don't want to be called an apostate to this,
Sure.
woke religion. And so, it's the reason why judges let out, criminals who've been arrested 14 times that then go to murder Irina Zaruska on the subway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 100%. To your point, and I know I'm kind of conflating the fraud in Minnesota with the NGOs, but I think there's going to be a connection there at some point.
I think they're kid and kin.
I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but I don't doubt it. This guy on XC3, California NGOs, there's 213,000 of them for a total of $593 billion a year. To your point about would we be in the black?
Yes.
New York NGOs, there's 130,000, $445 billion a year. Minnesota NGOs, 41,000 NGOs there, 124.2 billion. New Jersey, 56,000 for 113 billion. Washington, 44,000 for 139 billion. That's just a few. Now again, these are all leftist blue states. I'm not saying we shouldn't look into red states, because I think we should, but but the low-hanging fruit are obviously the blue states that have been run by the Democrats, who, just like the late Rush Limbaugh would say, they just play Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And it's not just giving them welfare benefits. Right. It's now giving them literally, again, generational wealth. Mm-hmm. You can set up a daycare that's not a daycare. And we don't care. We're just going to give away this money. But now that there's the laundering scheme, now that this money's moving overseas, once it moves overseas, good luck tracking it.
You'll never have it. You'll never get it.
And what is it going to?
Yeah.
And it's probably going to all of it's. This is an intel op. I mean,
it's money laundering.
Yeah, it's money laundering. But you'll never convince me that the intel oligarchy is not involved here.
So I've got, two things, and I completely agree with you on that, Paul. But I've got two things, and I want to say that there is reporting as well now that the fraud that is happening in the state of Mississippi. Have you seen some of this?
No, I have not.
Okay, there's a huge discrepancy there on the reporting that they believe that the fraud in Mississippi might eclipse Minnesota's fraud. Now, that's hard to say at this point because I don't believe that they've even tapped the surface, as I said earlier, about the Minnesota fraud.
So the Mississippi fraud, what is this surrounding? Is this surrounding fake daycares as well?
Yes, it is all receiving government funds for businesses such as it's usually in healthcare or childcare.
Okay. Well, so Eric, who's not with us today, he was talking a ton about the Medicaid fraud.
Yep.
That they haven't really. They got to the some of the health center for quoting rates, but in terms of the Medicaid fraud, he said that's going to be off the charts.
It's going to be incredible too if they can really get into the state of California, because I believe that they are by sheer numbers they receive more Medicaid reimbursement in that state than any other state, and granted it's the largest state, but Texas is not too far behind it. You know what I mean? So in terms of population, and so let's not get wrapped up in the red state, blue state. It's fraud, folks. And I will say this: any fraud that is found in the state of Mississippi, I don't care that it's a red state. There are a lot of blue cities in Mississippi, but I don't care where the fraud is found, red state or blue state. From that famous viral video, lock 'em up. Lock 'em up. Okay, let me just tell you something right now. I'm a Republican conservative. I really wish that there was like a true constitutional conservative party. I don't believe that there is, but it's not gained enough because I don't like being a Republican. I don't agree with the Republicans a lot on certain things. I'm a true constitutional conservative. If it's in the Constitution, that's where we are. So I hate the word Republican, red state, blue state, all that stuff. But anyway, if it is a red state and fraud is found, lock them up. I'm tired of all of this fraud. That's number one. Let me get to my second point really quickly. 1 million seconds ago was last week. Do you know how long ago 1 billion seconds was?
I do not.
Something like 1992. Do you know how long 1 trillion seconds ago was?
Oh my gosh, no. I have no idea.
Jesus was walking the earth.
Okay.
So when we're saying these billions of dollars of fraud, folks, you need to be putting this in perspective, because I don't think that people truly realize how much $1 billion is.
This is the only way I can quantify it. That's a good way to do it. But $1 billion is $27,000 a day for 100 years. With money still left over.
Wow.
So the only way to conceptualize that, likewise, $1 trillion is 27 million a day for 100 years with money still left over. And somebody told me this the other day, like how to visualize that. But if you just envision a field with piles of money, and let's just call it $1 trillion. So each pile's $1 trillion. And that pile represents 27 million a day for 100 years with a little money still left over. And then you start looking at, we owe 36, 40 trillion, soon to be 40 trillion.
We're about to hit 40 trillion.
Think of how much money that is, and that's when that's why the billion with a B is still a gargantuan amount of money, and that's why I was so angry when all of the USAID stuff was coming out this time last year.
Hundreds of billions of dollars,
and they're paying their friends. Literally, it pays to vote Democrat. It pays to vote for the deep state, and it's not just the Democrats; it's the Uniparty as well. But it's just so frustrating, and that's why Bukele from El Salvador said at CPAC, you guys don't pay taxes to fund the government. You pay taxes to promote the illusion that you fund the government because of the magic money machine. So where did all that go, by the way? I feel like Trump and Elon are maybe kind of on the mend, but let's get back to exposing that. Let's put people in jail for that, like magic money machines that can just deposit money anywhere, according to Musk, anywhere, any account in the world. I mean, this is you're really getting back to not to black pill, but it's so bad that I don't see how you can come to. It's very difficult to not come to the conclusion that we're slaves.
Yeah. It's kind of like a relationship. If you're in this, verbally and abusive and mentally abusive relationship, and then both of you come to the realization that, hey, I think instead of giving this one more try, this is so rotten. This relationship is so vile and rotten that I don't think it can be brought back from the dead. And when you look at these government organizations, even if you have, say, conservatives who are really trying to root out the fraud, are we naive? We're going to sit here and naively say that conservatives are not involved in any fraud? Lord have mercy. No, we do not have the wool pulled over our eyes. We are not mindless drones being told what to do. We are critical thinkers, and that's one of the distinct things about the Republican Party over the Democratic Party is that I think we look at things a little bit more critically and with a skeptical eye. The Democrats are a little bit more trusting in the narrative that they are provided, and so conservatives are 100% in this fraud, which means that until we burn it all down, I'm not trying to I'm not saying that we should do that because that's what communists and socialists want to do. But man, there's got to be some massive overhaul and there's got to be some massive change. And then there's got to be some sort of checks and balances to keep this from ever happening again.
I agree. So here, Nick Shirley, they've got a new video. It was supposed to be out today and may be out. I don't know. But this is...
oh, my goodness. Folks, if you have not seen this, this is the best 6 minutes of your day today.
Yeah, so the other guy in his video... in that viral video that was right there with him, David Hawk is his name, and this is what he was saying the other day in a meeting, or maybe this was a committee meeting.
So this committee is here. Scott Besson is here. I don't know who all else is on this panel, but Scott Besson is going to be the one that does a lot of the speaking here.
So I've been researching this issue of fraud.
Reminder, this is the guy that was with Nick Shirley.
Somali fraud, because it is so gargantuan for the past 7 years. Many of you are familiar with the video that Nick Shirley and I made. We have a second video that's coming out Monday that is 10 times worse than the original video. It's going to be pretty shocking and it's pretty graphic. So what I have here is a 5-year recap of all of the CCAP money, that's child care assistance payments, for the last 5 years. The top 102 recipients of that, 84 of them are Somali owned. You know how many children I've seen at those child care centers over the last 7 years? 0, not one. There's another pile of money, and it's called Great Start. And that money.
This guy's just a white supremacist, by the way. That was what I was thinking earlier when you were saying, it's not about race or whatever, and how everyone's afraid. Less people are afraid to be called racist than ever, but that's because, Governor Walz's response, I just want to throw this in there, his response to the Nick Shirley video was to call him a white supremacist, which is just absolutely insane. So
it's moronic, and it's their go-to playbook.
Yeah, and what it fundamentally means is it's actually people are becoming less afraid to criticize a person just because they're a minority. It's like, look, if you're guilty, you're guilty, man. Like,
folks, if you are not burning crosses in a white hood on African American people's front lawn,
you're not a white supremacist.
Let's really tamp down this whole term, because white supremacist. Now, there are some. I've read a great book by a FBI agent who went undercover in these biker gangs that are white supremacists. I get all of that, man. Those people exist, right? That's not the people going in here trying to investigate fraud. These are investigative journalists. And you can say, well, that's not a journalist. He's a conservative YouTuber. He's a right-wing conspiracy theorist.
Everybody's a journalist now, though.
We are.
So-
Because why, Paul?
Yeah.
The actual journalists don't do their job.
The old saying, you're an actor the minute you decide to be, applies to journalism now.
100%. Caroline Levitt will sit up there and roast them at the press secretary as a press secretary and say, you are all investigative journalists. You are all journalists. Do some investigating. Why are you not investigating this fraud? Why are you sitting here trying to investigate Nick Shirley? Why are you trying to investigate David Hawk? Why you're trying to go after the whistleblowers here, essentially, rather than you're a taxpayer too. Billions of dollars of fraud. What is wrong with you? Party allegiance.
Will Tim Walz resign? Will he be arrested? I'd love to see the poly market odds on that.
Let's finish this.
Money is given to the facility to train their staff. Well, if you don't have any kids, you don't need any staff. Then what I believe is the core of all this, is this non-emergency medical transportation. So a search showed that Minnesota recognizes 1,020 NEMT companies. Almost 900 of them are Somali-owned. So in the second video, Nick Shirley and I went to 16 of them. I've actually been to about 70 of them. They don't exist. They're in an apartment building. One of them's a liquor store. Another one's a wire transfer. Another one is something totally unrelated. It's a grocery store. There are no vehicles. And the average NEMT company in the United States has 20 vehicles, and each vehicle generates about $70,000 a year. So you run those numbers, 800 companies, 20 vehicles, $70,000 a year, and it's an enormous sum of money that's going out. So my feeling is that chasing the money transfers and the wires and the SARS is great, but you got to drop like Batman on Minnesota DHS, because they're the ones who are writing the checks. They're the ones allowing the fraud to happen. Look, you can blame the Somalis, but if you stick your hand out and someone puts $100 in it, yet you're going to stick your hand out again and keep the people who are putting the $100 in have got to stop doing it.
He does really. That is really.
Yeah, that's where I got that from this video.
Yeah, and I see now. I mean, I agreed with you when you said earlier, but the people in government have got to go to jail. It's not just the Somalis. The people in Minnesota government have got to go to jail.
It's not enough to just lose your job.
No, they've got to go to jail for this.
If you actively committed fraud, meaning you forged these documents to say that you were investigating this, or that you went out there and you did a site check on this and all of that stuff. To me, it's mind-blowing. It just blows my mind that with all the checks and balances that we have, Paul, they want to know if you use more than $600 on Cash App, or PayPal, sending somebody money.
Insane.
Right.
That's just tyranny. I mean, that's just absolute tyranny when you look at the scope of how they're giving away money to these immigrants.
And these fraudulent companies don't exist. You mean to tell me that a non-emergency medical transport company is operating out of a liquor store? You mean to tell me that it's operating out of an apartment complex? How is that possible, Paul? How do you have your vans? Because if you've seen those non-emergency medical transports, it's usually like a van that's got like a wheelchair ramp that's attached to the side.
Supposed to be a valuable service to the community.
Correct.
That's why the government's involved, supposedly.
So they're not calling an ambulance to go to a doctor's appointment, but yet they're a senior citizen and they have Medicare and whatever, and you're billing for the service that you do. But these, it seems, if this reporting is correct, they're operating out of their home. That's why it would be an apartment complex or a liquor store, because they actually do work there or they own that liquor store. And then there are no medical transport vehicles, but they're probably charging for all of the stuff. Every
We've got
bit
a fleet of 100 vehicles.
Yeah, so the mileage and all of this stuff, right? I would say that they need to cross-reference that and say, are they writing off the mileage that's attached to a VIN number? Because if they don't even have the vehicle, Are we going through the process of checking to see if they're writing off? They might be writing off mileage on a fictional vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that to say they're not looking into this fraud. These people, the overseers, are not looking into this fraud. It's either complete incompetence or it's complete fraud. They're involved in it too. That would be the option too. And whatever one. If you're incompetent and you've allowed billions of dollars of fraud, I don't see how that's not criminal. But at the very least, there needs to be a very public firing of you.
You know, earlier when you were talking about how essentially this woke mind virus may have, where they're backdating documents because they,
Sure.
they're
Well,
helping.
they're
They're
trying to
helping.
CYA.
Like the whole, if you even go beyond that, or you kind of pull back even further, the whole idea is like, okay, we're going to create this program where we're going to, import massive amounts of Somalis, give them a generational foothold here. They're going to start having kids and everything else. And what's the average IQ of a Somali?
For the country of Somalia, it's something like 67.
Okay. Average IQ of the country where they're from is 67. Do you know any business owners pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps with an IQ of 67? I mean, there's no way to know, but I mean, if you had to guess, you see that. So I guess my point is, the government says from a political correct standpoint of how they want the world to be, not how it actually is. Oh, we have to give these people something to do. We have to give them businesses.
Yeah.
There's a component of that as well. I mean, the overall greed and the kickbacks and the tithes is really what it's all about. But I think there may be a component of that too. Is let's import them all here and let's give them businesses because we want them to be successful entrepreneurs.
Sure, and there are probably people who are bringing them in saying, hey, you do this, you receive these funds, and I get half of it.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, and so I completely believe that happening because that's a mutually beneficial agreement here. Hey, I will approve your immigration status here, or I'll approve your work visa for you to come here, or whatever.
Or let me fill out the application for you to become a daycare.
There you go. I'll fill it out, and we'll just put this address. Nobody's even checking, okay? Nobody's going to come in here and look at that because if they start investigating these child care centers, if they start investigating these non-emergency medical transportation companies, if they start investigating all of these fraudulent businesses that the Somalians are running, we'll just call them a racist. We'll undermine their investigation by calling them a racist. Seems to be playbook enacted here.
Exactly. And the Cash App thing that you mentioned, what that highlights to me, like, you can send $5,000 a day on Apple Pay. That's it. You're capped at $5,000 a day, or they want to know your $600 purchase or whatever, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So the average person, second-class citizen Americans that are not Somali immigrants, we're met with all of these rules, and I know they're private companies and that sort of thing. But what's obvious is if you want to move real money and you want to be involved in criminal activity, do business with the government. I mean, that's where you have the greatest, like, if you want to be a criminal mastermind, not to say that everybody that does business with the government, is a criminal. I'm not saying that. But if you have those type of, if that's your personality, if you're evil, you're bent towards evil and you want to scam the system, get involved with the government.
Yeah.
You're going to have a much easier way than trying to scam private companies.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the government's, because number one, there's a faucet that will never be turned off. Okay. And then number two, there is, have you ever seen a government employee get in a hurry about anything?
Nope.
Go to the DMV, my friend, and no insult to the DMV workers, but they're government workers, man.
It is what it is.
They clock in, they clock out. They're not there to be, your friend or in a hurry about anything. You come in there, you're in a quick, got to get in, got to get out because you're on your lunch break, and you're trying to run in there and do all this. You can't. They don't care. So, and they're certainly not going to conduct oversight of a community that if they do, could absolutely destroy them by calling them a racist.
Yeah. Stereotypes, meaning the DMV, stereotypes exist because they get reinforced every single day. One of my favorite phrases.
Asians are good at math.
I actually heard that phrase for the first time from a now leftist, actually, who didn't used to be. So Nick Sorter has been on the ground in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
He's been assaulted. He's been hung up on by the Minneapolis Police Department trying to help. And so there is just quite a lot of chaos going on. He's being surrounded by these people, life threatened. These are the moments leading up to the Minnesota anti-ICE riders surrounding my vehicle, smashing my windows, and attempting to kill Cam Higbee and me. So he's putting his life on the line.
Yeah.
I saw I saw Elijah Schaefer talking to Nick Shirley in a video, and I didn't pull it, but he was just warning him and says, "Hey, man, like I almost lost my life."
Yeah.
It was back during BLM, I think. And they pulled a gun on me, and they pulled the trigger, but the gun jammed. And he was just saying, "Look, I retired after that," and he was telling Nick Shirley, "Hey, you just need to be careful, and you need to realize that if you continue doing this kind of work, they're going to try and kill you."
Sure.
And so that's
wow.
what
You're
the
seeing
stakes
it on
are.
screen here, where they smashed
Smashed his window. And this is Nick Sorter, not Nick Shirley.
Yeah.
But
Look at all that painting his vehicle.
it's been pretty wild. In the meantime, Donald
For our
Trump.
listening audience, there was a walk around of his vehicle, which was a Jeep Renegade, which is like those Jeeps that are trucks. Anyway, they had spray painted BITCH on there. They had busted out his window, spray painted, all of that stuff. And that just shows who they are.
In the meantime, Donald Trump is posting about the welfare use rates in Minnesota by household with children. And, of course, we have 89% Somali immigrant households with children. 89% are on welfare, are on any welfare. Then you've got cash, 23%. So the Somalis are at the top of all of this. Medicaid, 86%. Versus what's the gray one there?
So the gray one is there's Somalian immigrants with children that have been here for longer than 10 years, and then there's Somalian households with children. So I'm assuming that is less than 10 years. I don't know which one is which because they both
These are
look
those
like,
same statistics that.
Yes.
Were you on the program Thursday or was Eric? I can't remember.
It was Eric. on
Okay, yeah,
Thursday.
Eric and I talked about that. Congressman up there brought these statistics.
Yeah,
up.
Gil
Yeah.
is his name.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. A lot of people say he looks like Superman, and I think he also acts like Superman. But anyway, when you look at it, just look at Medicaid. Just look at Medicaid. So that's 28%. So a little over a quarter of the Minnesotan population.
And notice native households with children, which is driving because some of these Somalis are naturalized, and some of them have kids, and so that really triggers the leftists. But I love that he's tweeting a graphic.
Sure.
Native.
So a little over a quarter of folks like you and I are on Medicaid.
In Minnesota.
Yes. Then you've got almost 90% of Somali immigrant households are on Medicaid. And it only goes down to 83% from 86%. It only goes down to 83% for our listening audience for people that have been here for over 10 years. So if you've been here for 10 years, only 3% reduction in people who are on Medicaid. Medicaid is one of the most expensive programs because that is medical to pay. It's insurance essentially, and it's there's a lot of folks absolutely that need Medicaid, and so but you shouldn't import that. You should, when Donald Trump talks about we're not getting the best, there are a lot of immigrants who live in here that are illegal, and I know several illegal immigrants who are hardworking, not on welfare, all of that stuff. What is it about this Somalian population that this percentage is so high? And this is just one state, but it's also the state with the highest percentage of Somalians. So what is it about this state? What is it about this community where they're just on all kinds of welfare? And I can just tell you this. If these fraud numbers are coming out, and then all of a sudden children who have never been at a daycare, and then this fraud gets exposed, and then the next day there's a bunch of people bringing their their kids in there, meaning they're all in on it.
Yeah, there's a whole network.
Yep, they're all in on it. And that means that these funds are probably not as needed as what they say they are. Surely, if this fraud number is correct, they're not. If they're millionaires, they shouldn't be on Medicaid.
And Hawk, Nick Shirley's partner there, what he also said was, he said that the Medicaid fraud goes deeper. So this amount of people on Medicaid, they go to the doctor, all of a sudden the Somalis pretend like they don't speak English.
Yeah.
Which means now they have to call an interpreter. The interpreter is Somali.
Correct.
The interpreter now gets paid a minimum for 8 hours. Even if they show up for one translating, $100 an hour for 8 hours. And they're saying that happens almost any time a Somali goes to the doctor.
Yeah.
They're all of a sudden they don't speak English anymore.
Yep.
So you talk about them all being in on it. Hey, we got to get the kids in there to make it look like we're actually a legitimate business.
Right.
They're here to mooch off of our resources and to essentially take over the state of Minnesota and eventually America. Like that is 100%. Like they don't, and that's the thing. Like all these protests, the liberal woman who was shot, Renee Good. Somalis don't care anything about her. She's standing up. Oh, we don't want the Somalis to get deported. The Somalis don't care anything about that liberal white woman, and that's the truth of the matter. No. That's really sad if you really think about what she died for.
Oh, sure.
They don't care about her.
Well, it's the same thing that the people that go out and protest after George Floyd. Let me just tell you this. The people who are out there, the Black Lives Matter folks, do you think they care about these white liberal women who are the butthole of the United States? Like, you are the butthole of I don't say butthole very often, but I'm going to say...
It's a word that you really don't hear very often.
Correct. I want to say a different word, but we're on television in a different market, so we want to make sure that we are keeping it clean. So you are, if there was an enema needed, okay, it would be in the white liberal women that would be taking that enema, because that's where it would have to go. They are the butthole of the United States, in my opinion. And I'm not talking about a Democrat woman, a woman who votes Democrat because she just happens to be pro-choice and maybe aligns on some of the other stuff. I'm talking about the lunatic leftists. You are the butthole of America. Okay, I'm trying to say it as much times as I can.
I wish you wouldn't.
I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on from it. But I will say this: all Black Lives Matter could give two craps about these white liberal women out there protesting for them. These women who are stepping, these stupid white guys with purple hair stepping in front of cars protesting, George Floyd, Somalians, immigrants, all this stuff. You think they care about you? They don't give a damn about you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the liberal white women will be the ones escorting the traditional Christians onto the trains. And then the Somalians, once we're all on board, the Somalians will push the liberal white women onto the train.
Don't forget these.
Yeah, see you, Karen.
Don't forget these.
That's actually what the plan is, if you ask me.
Speaking of loser white folks,
I don't like to do this very often because it's a little labor intensive. But this video I knew I had to show, just maybe point of personal privilege, just because I think this is that's a legislative term. Point of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, I know. It's those stupid Democrat socialists of America, though. Like the clips are going around.
Point of personal privilege.
Please stop using gendered language. Did you see that stupid video? We need to show that one day on a slow news day. But
so this is a video riddled with F-bombs.
Yep.
So I took the time to edit the F-bombs out.
Yep.
And what's interesting about this is it's just hilarious. We have this idea that the leftists are turning violent, and they are, and they're protesting, and they're upset. But we forget that many of these people that are now talking about the Second Amendment, now they love the Second Amendment. We played that on Thursday. The Second Amendment. You had this hippie liberal guy. The Second Amendment is not for hunting; it's for fighting a tyrannical government, and we've got to do more. This is a guy in Minnesota on Thursday. He was saying this. And so now we have another guy calling for violence.
The irony is so
calling for guns to be used against ICE. This guy's now doing that.
Don't worry, TV audience. Don't listen. If you're in the studio watching it, don't worry. He has bleeped.
We've got it bleeped out. And so here is this, and you tell me if something doesn't sound a little off about this.
Hey, money to show up with guns to face you guys. It's time for an armed resistance against the United States. Hey, money to show up with guns to face you guys. It's time for an armed resistance against the United States of America.
Take your mask off.
This is done. We're done. You're murderers. You shot a woman in a wheelchair. We need to come back with weapons. Go to the gun store, get a gun, learn how to use it, and face you guys man to man.
Wait a minute. There's a line in there that we can't skip past here. What is it? Were you listening? Did you hear it, listening audience? Did you hear it? We're gonna go to the gun store, buy some guns, and then what did he say? Learn how to use them, and then come back here and do something with it. And you're like, yeah, you're going to be using a weapon against someone who's had a weapon in their hand for 20 years, 30 years in some of these cases. I like the ICE officers' chances.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a blue state for sure, and there are people, and I think we can say this safely. Like, we can venture into this territory with like no problem because it's Tim Waltz that's brought up the Civil War, right? So people have often wondered, are the urban and rural values that are so radically different, like, is it going to result in another civil war? And a modern-day civil war would look a lot different than the blues and the grays, of the 19th century. But the left doesn't know how to use guns. They don't. They really don't stand a chance here, especially against federal law enforcement or some hunter from Arkansas,
right?
And I just find that I thought that video was hilarious. These people are totally outmatched. They're putting their lives at risk. Sure. They're violent agitators. They're now threatening with they're threatening to murder the ICE agents, but they really are in a lot of ways. You take away the George Soros funding or the NGO funding, they really are paper tigers. They don't know. This is in many cases the obesity that I have seen of people. This is the first physical activity that they've done in 10 years. Getting thrown to the blobs of fat, getting thrown to the ground by ICE officers. They think that they're big and bad. They think they've been playing video games too long. And now it's like, well, hey, this is the real world, son.
I can't get past this how he thought he did something here. He thought he said something here when he said, we need to go to the gun store, buy some guns, learn how to use them, and then come back here and take care of you guys. Like, bro.
Also, where's he getting his news? You also appropriately point out, he said he accused ICE of shooting a woman in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
who's he talking about?
I'm sure that there's been some people that say, oh, Renee was having to use a wheelchair or something. There's somebody that's probably said.
She did have adult diapers in her car. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, you brought it. I feel like this is a good segue. There's a photo of her in the car, and there's apparently a box of adult diapers. And so the allegation that some people, the deduction, it could be, this is just rumor, is that they were so committed to like stopping ICE around the clock.
Oh God, no!
That they were willing to, defecate or let's just say pee their pants. Okay, I'm not going to go that far, but they were willing to pee their pants in an adult diaper because they were on the case. They're on the case. The game is afoot, Watson. We're on a stakeout here. You've heard of these guys who do the filibuster for 24 hours on the Senate wearing adult diapers, right? You might be able to make an argument for that, although if I was ever in office and I'm like, I'm wearing an adult, I'd be like, you've lost the plot, okay?
Yeah.
Like, filibuster.
Listen, man, I don't think I need to do anything where I voluntarily wear adult diapers, So it reminds me of a case, and this has been 20 years ago. And there was a lady, and she actually was a police officer, and she was dating a dude, and he breaks up with her and moves across country and starts dating someone else. Well, she has got in her mind that she's going to drive cross country and confront him, and then maybe, Eric, listening to the show, you can say that just a second.
Yeah, I know.
But here's the story of it. This woman was trying to drive cross country, Paul, and she was wearing adult diapers so she didn't have to stop. She was so enraged, and she's going to go confront this ex. Many people believe she was going to go murder them both, but we don't know that. But anyway, she wore adult diapers and drove cross country so that
It's like a Bryan Adams soundtrack blasting the whole time. Everything I do.
maybe that's what it was, but
That's pretty sick.
Yeah,
That's pretty sick. Well, Eric Haynes informs us, Rob.
You say this. You say it. I'm not saying it.
Apparently, Taylor Swift fans, otherwise known as Swifties wear adult diapers and pee their pants at Taylor Swift concerts so they don't have to leave. Just saying. So apparently, it is a thing. Maybe
listen,
I wonder if Renee Good was also a Swiftie. You don't know.
I'm going to tell you this right
That's
now.
where she learned the behavior.
Straight up. You want to get us canceled as quickly as possible? We
Attack.
start saying that Taylor Swift sucks and that Swifties are lunatics and all this. We start saying that, and this show is over. We're going to get canceled on TV. We're going to get canceled all across.
I think Taylor Swift is a witch, like an actual witch.
Paul Harrell said that, not Rob.
Sorry.
Rob Spencer did not say that.
I think she dabbles in the demonic.
She might be. There's a video that was going around a few years ago, and this was before AI, so I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe she was demonic. But there was another video. Well, it showed her like outside, in a black robe doing a seance, or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was another video that was true, that was actually a real one. Although the first one may have been real, who knows? But it was her at I think the Golden Globes, no, it wasn't the Golden Globes. It was some award ceremony, and she was like all cheering for the person that won. It was like, yes, yes. And then the person got up there and said, "First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior in heaven." And Taylor goes,
I have seen that video.
that is a legit real video, and it happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not saying that Swifties are godless, but there's a lot of evidence that seems
I would agree with you there.
a lot of evidence here that seems that old Taylor Swift, the mothership, could be godless.
Could be subjecting yourself.
So let's pray for her.
Could be subjecting yourself to spells or incantations when you go to those concerts. I just have wondered. I've seen some of the concerts, though, the one from last year, and it was very demonic and witchy. So, but speaking of liberals, this is an interview that was done on Now News of somebody at one of these protests in Minnesota bringing their baby.
Hate what's happening to it with people who frankly aren't from here coming in and telling us who should be here, and when it comes down to loving my neighbor, I'm just going to love my neighbor. So
you have a little peanut with you.
I do. This is Lola.
And why was it important for you to bring her?
Just to feel the energy of love and community, and to show people that I'm not going to let someone else intimidate me to live in a city that doesn't represent what I want it to represent. I want to be able to bring her in a place where people are saying we love our neighbors.
Minnesota is, I grew up here, it's known as a very welcoming place. Can you believe your eyes? Can you believe what you're seeing happening on our streets?
I mean, no, and also I have to, because if I don't believe it, I'm not going to take action, and I think it's important to stand up for what's right and show up the way that I would want someone to show up for me.
So, I actually feel sorry for this woman.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the woman. I feel more sorry for the child. Literally interfering in ICE operations is somebody was just killed because of it, and that crowd could get whipped up into a frenzy in no time, and that woman and that, more importantly, that child's life could be put in harm's way literally in an instant.
Yeah.
Whether by actual leftists or whether by people that want something to happen, want to escalate, Antifa, all of that stuff. And now people have also made the claim this woman is essentially using her child as a human shield.
Sure.
Obviously, I don't know if that's her motivation, but practically speaking, maybe that is.
A couple of things. I have never in my entire life wanted to protest. Like, I've never felt, because it's just a waste of time. Nobody's ever said, well, you know, we were going to do this, we were going to do that, but since there were protests, we've decided to change.
Yeah, and that's a very right-leaning mentality of, like, the government raises taxes on you. Let's go protest the government. Well, no, I'll just work an extra 2 hours this year every week, you know, and I'll make the money back.
Yeah, and you know, and then I'll remember you come voting time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, that's because that is what a constitutional republic is all about. So, but I've never wanted to go to any sort of protest. I've never wanted to protest anything. Never felt like because it's a waste of time. The other thing is, if I had decided that I was going to ever go to a protest, I sure as hell wouldn't take my kids to it. Okay, it's moronic. It's child abuse, in my opinion, to take your. It leads me to my next point. There is that she's trying to say, I'm trying to go feel the love of the community. Every stinking video I've seen, there ain't no love to be found. There's only hate, and it's hate for these ICE officers. And they can say, well, it's because of the love that they have for their community. Love never comes out of hate. It never, you can't sit here and say, I love you, this community, so much that I'm going to throw myself in front of a vehicle in front of these ICE agents who I hate. Because guess what? A lot of these people, these law enforcement officers, are members of your community too. There's a video I saw today, Paul, and we don't have it on the show, but there's a guy that literally said, hug your kids. If you're an ICE agent, you better hug your kids and your family tonight, because you may not make it back to them tomorrow. And of course he's being referred to the FBI, because that sounds like a death threat to me.
Yep.
You know, and that's and you're sitting here saying, well, it's all coming out of love. I don't see it.
Real quick, I want to get to this video talking about more calls for violence. This is January 6th. Cop Michael Fanone is saying that we need to shoot ICE agents.
What are you doing to keep me safe? What are you doing to keep my mother safe, my sister safe, my community safe from these thugs? That's what I need to hear coming out of these agents or these officers. Because if you're not going to do it, then it's time for the American people to organize and to utilize their Second Amendment right to protect themselves from what has clearly become an unaccountable and lawless agency that's killing Americans.
What's lawless about it, Paul?
The irony here.
This guy's an effing moron.
Irony. J6, we didn't bring guns.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I say we. I wasn't at J6.
Sure.
To your protest point. But no, there weren't any guns there, or very little. I think there was one guy that finally anyway. That was
the most Second Amendment.
Yeah, it wasn't an insurrection, or people would the right would have actually brought guns, and now the left is actually calling for the very thing. And this guy's obviously in with the intel oligarchy and everything else, and he's fomenting like we got to go to war with ICE, and it's so crazy. It's like the Civil War, but in reverse in terms of who's in control of the feds versus instead of the independence of the states, the southern states. Now it's about the independence of the blue cities.
You're saying that they are a lawless law enforcement organization. You're saying that they're lawless. How are they lawless? They are enforcing immigration laws. You don't like the laws? Change the laws. But this is what elections have consequences. And if you want to sit here and say that Donald Trump didn't run on this, then you are flat out lying. Donald Trump said from day one.
Yeah, he ran on this exact idea.
He said, we're going to round him up. And everybody kept making fun of him. Like, what are you going to do? Just pull buses up there and just load people up? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're seeing here. Yeah. And there's another video, and maybe we'll have time to get to it tomorrow, Paul, but it was going through a list of all of the people and what their crimes were, and it was like forcible rape of a 9-year-old and all of this stuff. And you're like, okay, yeah, there may be some people who are also arrested that just have a deportation order or are just here illegally, but you're hanging out with someone who forcibly raped a 9-year-old? that's just a consequence that you have as you get on the plane back home.
As we wind things down, if the TV audience, if we cut out because we're getting to the top of the hour, just make sure to go to YouTube, subscribe to the Paul Harrell program or our Ex-American News, or follow Rob on Twitter, Rob Spencer 43, or me, Real Paul Harrell, or the Paul Harrell program on X. We appreciate it.
We're on Rumble, quick, we're everywhere.
Yeah, we're on Rumble. All right, look. I'm a raging lesbian protester from the Allstate gang. This is this is a great meme. Yeah. We got a few great memes to wrap things up. We didn't get to the super soldier angle. We've got to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But speaking of the super soldier reports, Marco Rubio is now found out he's essentially Master Chief from the Halo series. But this is the meme of the day, the official meme of the day. Gandalf fighting the Balrog, the bridge of Khazad-dûm. But from this angle, it's very clear the Balrog was not trying to pass and just panicked as the wizard broke the bridge out under his feet. So obviously we have more. Come on, I'm the nerd. I get it, but this made me laugh so hard.
That's true. That's
so
true.
hard. Rob Spencer, I appreciate it. I wish you had laughed harder at my joke. That's what. No, I'm just sorry.
No, it failed. It fell flat.
All right, folks. That's all the time that we have. Have a great rest of your Monday. God bless everybody out there watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
The Paul Harrell